That lighter will light at extreme altitude,
Sure. Low oxygen.
frozen.
Right.
Yeah,
In an airplane.
I love this lighter.
All the places you want to light.
Airplane.
Should probably be edited out as well. Hurricanes and cigars on a Friday.
So we are taking a look at some beer pairings, and I've got the beer maestro here, Jeff, and we want to talk about cigars and beer. They've got a new English pub ale coming out at Basic City in Waynesboro, Virginia, and I will let Jeff speak about that. And we've got some cigars to try and pair them with. Please tell us about the beer.
So this upcoming weekend, we'll be releasing our English pub ale we call Thirst Parlor. A little 4% beer, yellow beer right here. In an English style, very approachable, sessionable beer. And we're looking to work with Dave from Cigar Venues to pair a cigar with it.
And I'm so excited for the HVC Hotcake Golden line because it's a little bit yeasty. It's got some pepper for contrast. I want to see what Jeff thinks about this cigar with this beer, Thirst Parlor. So while Jeff lights this cigar, let's talk about the criteria just briefly. For me, the perfect pairing is when both the cigar and the beer transform. That is what you want. You want it to compare or contrast, but make the sum greater than all the parts. So let's award 5 points for each. If the cigar and the beer are better, let's award that a 10-point win. If one of them is better, let's make it 5 points. And if they both suck, we're just going to call it 0. That's a total loss. So a perfect 10 is the perfect pairing.
Is the pairing. Oh, okay. Yes. All right.
Is this one peppery? Oh, really?
Not for me.
Man, this usually reminds me of bread and pepper.
Right.
Bread and pepper.
I'm actually getting like a little straw, a little hay.
Oh, okay.
Maybe hay that's been in the hay mound for a little bit.
A little wet.
It's got some legs on it. I mean, I'm trying to determine if one definitely supersedes the other.
Mm-hmm.
Just on the palate. You know, one thing we like about this beer is that, you know, it's a perfect accompaniment to a good conversation. Mm-hmm. It's not going to distract you from, you know, Randy telling stories or whatever's going on around you. You know, it's just there. It's kind of a background note, but it's just a wonderful little liquid. It's so good. I would say right now, almost halfway through a pint, just got the cigar going. I would say that it's a bit of a contrast pairing. I think cigar stand is a little more upfront, where the beer is taking that back seat.
Yeah.
Which I don't mind. I'm not sure I've ever had the 10 that we discussed.
It's rare.
Right?
It's rare.
I don't know if it's ever happened for me. You know, there's definitely things that I like, but to have that symbiosis working, I think that it's hard to achieve.
It is, and you're right. It kind of mutes the beer for me as well.
Sure.
But the carbonation is always pleasant, but there's not much there with this cigar.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which might be a good thing. You know, if somebody, doesn't mind a low ABV beer that's yellow and fizzy, but wants the experience of a little more in their cigar, there you go. Connecticut wrapper.
This is, yeah, and I believe Nicaraguan guts. But it's got a lot of body. It's got a little bit of attitude for Connecticut.
Yep. Half an inch in. The attitude is starting to happen.
I honestly thought this would be a 10 out of 10. I really did. Everything I've put this with.
Right. What do you think? What are your thoughts?
I
gave you mine, and I don't know what I'm talking about.
I would give this 5 points. The cigar tastes a little bit better. It's just got a little more complexity to it from the beer. The beer gets nothing.
So our beer is a 0, cigar is 5.
Yeah.
So the whole thing's a 5, based on
based on random anecdotal made up the last
random
minute
criteria that we just agreed upon.
And I'm excited for Jeff to try the Jake Wyatt Lucid Interval because for a Candela cigar, it's got a lot more body to it than you would expect. You still get that lemongrass, you get a little bit of spice, you get a little bit of earthiness, a little bit of that matcha green tea, but it's totally more happening under the hood than you'd expect from the wrapper's shade.
It smells sweet.
I like
definitely
Candela.
Sweet smelling.
Yeah.
It's almost like You know, when you get that smell, it just triggers a memory. There's definitely a flower in the spring that it reminds me of.
It is a very spring sensation.
Yeah.
It really
It
is.
is very springy.
The money shot right there.
Yeah, that's bringing some excitement right away. There's a lot more complexity in that than even the hot cake. I'm just right out of the gates.
Yeah.
It opens interesting right away, you know.
I love a layered cigar.
Yeah, I'm definitely getting like I don't want it to sound weird, but there's definitely like a leafy, like green leaf, vegetative something in there that comes out for me. And then, yeah, a little bit of pepper. So interesting as, of course, beers evolve while they're in the pint glass, and you lose carbonation, right? So a little bit of that spicy carbonic acid works its way out as it gets into the atmospheres, but also temperature. Temperature, of course, opens the beer up like it would open a wine up. So your nose could change, and ultimately your palate could change as well. And absolutely, the beer has changed on my palate already. English style beers, they're preferred to be drank around 50 degrees anyway. I wouldn't say we're far from that now, maybe 45. And it's still pleasant, but the malt has definitely come to life. I think that's holding up a little more against the Jake Wyatt. Right now I'm at like beer 2, cigar 5.
I like what you did there because that's exactly what I was thinking. It doesn't get a full boost, but it definitely gets a little amplification.
Right.
But I did not think at all about the temperature and how long it's been in the glass.
Right.
And it
Right.
is a moving target every
Right.
time.
Every time. And, you know, a lot of times people who hold their beers, you know, whether they realize it or not, they're opening that beer up just by the heat of their hand, going from, say, a 34-degree pour, and before you know it, it's quick to get to 40. And then the beers really open up.
Can you gauge that for us? Like
Oh, boy.
between 34 degrees to, let's say, 60. Like,
Okay.
where's all the magic happen? Because you
So-
said 40, which is not far from 34.
Sure. I think with a malt forward beer, whether it's a light lager, something like we're drinking, or even up to a big stout, the warmer it gets, the more expressive that beer is going to get. Where you come across something like a fruited sour that's already got a low pH and it has a fruit backbone in it, or an IPA, something along those lines, those beers I prefer cold, keep them cold, put the can in a koozie, and try to maintain those beers like that. I think once you hit 45, 50 degrees with an IPA, then you get the perception of bitterness that maybe you don't want, and the perception of the hops is going to change, maybe to something that's less pleasant than at that nice 34 degree, right off the draft or out of the can temperature.
Yeah, I've definitely experienced that, and it's not fun.
Old IPAs, and I'm talking like 15 minutes in July, that's old for an IPA. Yeah, that's no fun. Nobody wants that thing.
Dude, I like this cigar.
I really
I
like
like
this
it quite
cigar.
a bit.
This is fantastic.
Jake Wyatt, ladies and gentlemen.
Jake White, yeah.
Jake Wyatt.
Yeah.
The Illusione La Grande Classe. One of my top 10 cigars to this day
Of all time.
of all time.
That's on
It's-
the top 10 list.
It is.
Yeah,
It is.
okay.
And it's very price-wise. It's super approachable.
Sure. I love the
It's a
size.
classy son of a bitch.
I love the size of this.
This cigar I technically brought to pair with the Oktoberfest, or attempt to pair with the Oktoberfest. But let's see what it does,
see what it does
with
here.
this 4%er.
Do I get a hit of clove on the retro?
I always describe this as it's a gritty caramel, a little bit of earth, and then baking spices, and I call them Christmas baking spices. And I think the clove makes a whole hell of a lot of sense.
There's the clove, yeah. But the small cigar, the amount of smoke they produce is my favorite thing.
Satisfying.
Yes.
Very
You'll get
satisfying.
more smoke consistently out of one of these than your larger gauges, and that, I love that.
And this, compared to the first two that we smoked, this is a more potent, a more intense cigar. The flavors are way more aggressive. The pepper, I think, is probably a little more spicy. What do you think about this with that beer?
I'm working on that, Dave. I'm working on that. I'd say we're not far from room temperature at this point with the liquid. So that's as open as it's going to get. Going, again, cigar 5, beer 2. That's a tough one to pair with.
It is. And I came
Sorry to
here
go
thinking it would be
curveball
so easy.
out of the gates.
I think I would give both of these a 0. It washes out the cigar a little bit. The juice also gets washed out a little bit. Not a lot, but a little.
You're going 0-0, 0-0 tie.
For a cigar that's in my top 10
Right.
of all time.
I really enjoy the cigar,
I do too.
for sure. That's a wonderful little
But it
cigar
loses that Batman flavor profile with the beer.
with the beer.
Yeah, it tames down a little too much.
Do you think it's the beer? You think it may act differently with a cider, wine, a bourbon?
Whiskey and rum make this cigar pop like you would not believe.
So reviewing Thirst Parlor Pub Ale, my pick would be the Jake Wyatt,
Mine too.
the Lucid Interval.
That was hands down the best thing we put together so far.
Yeah.